Well, this week we are finishing off our stove project that we've been working on. I love how this turned out. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy it is to do. So our first step today is to make our cooktop. So we've got this nice open area, and I've cut a couple of pieces here. I've got a piece of Bisquick box or a heavy duty paperboard. If you're using cereal box, probably you'll need 2 pieces. Mine was 2 3/4 by 2, but measure your stove. You want it to fit perfectly in here, and you want it to just cover the front of the top of the door to come even with that. I'm going to get out my parchment paper. I've got a couple of other pieces cut the same size. I have a piece of black cardstock because what I decided to do was to make a glass top cooktop on this stove. I thought that would be kind of fun. It's something I haven't done before. I was going to go to Home Depot and get a good look at what one actually looks like, but I didn't have time. So we're going to fake it. I'm going by the pictures I found online. So I've got a piece of black cardstock and I have a piece of clear plastic packaging. And then I have this shape. It's cut so the opening is 1/8 of an inch smaller than this piece. And that's going to go, and then it's got little wings on it. That is going to cover the edges. So the first thing we want to do is spread this with a nice coat of some kind of glue that will hold down your flat piece of paper. You could probably get away with glue stick on this step, but my glue stick is empty. And I completely forgot to get more when I went to town today. And we're going to glue this piece of black cardstock down right on there. And then we're going to let this dry. So I'm going to probably set something on top of this to help weight it down, make sure it stays flat, and I'm going to let this dry, then I'll be back. Alright, so that glue is now dry, and I have pre-folded this. I scored and pre-folded where I want it to fold. Spread glue. Now you're going to need to be really careful when you place the plastic because you don't want to get glue on your plastic if you can avoid it, although I think we can clean this off. Alright, make sure I have no glue on my fingers. Plastic goes down first. And this is a really close fit. Oops, it's popping out of the corners. Come on. Then this. Oops. Okay. Any glue we get on the front we can clean off when we're done. I think I just went out of camera range, but I had to get it where I could see it. As long as there's not glue under the plastic or any marks under the plastic, you can clean up the top. And this is all on the top. Make sure everything is nice and even all the way around. Over. And set something on top of it and let it dry. Alright, so I've cleaned off most of the glue spots on here. I just used a cotton ball and some isopropyl alcohol. It works really well to get off glue residue, and I can clean it off some more once the paper is all the way dry. So now we are going to glue our stove top in place. I need to make sure it's going to fit. So there, we're going to just kind of push it down inside of there, and then the door will go up under it. But we are going to make sure when we glue this on that our door is open on our stove. So we're going to get some, I'm just using tacky glue here. That on. I am going to find something. Why is there never... Okay, use a piece of foam core. You can really use anything to spread your glue around. I'm leaving the door open while I do this, just in case I have glue that oozes over the front. I don't want to glue the door shut. I've done that on projects in the past, and it's not fun. Alright, so I've got that on. Make sure there's no little kitty hairs hanging on the side. Push it down in. And this is a spot that we definitely want to put. That's going to be too heavy. Alright, put that on there, let the glue dry, and I'm going to let this sit overnight. And then in the morning I'll be back and we'll go on to the rest of the steps. Alright, I took the weight off of this to make sure it was working. I do have to clean it up some more, but I love how this is looking so far. So now we're going to make the control knobs that are going back here on the back panel. And I've started out, I was kind of playing around with this to see if this was going to work. And what you're going to need, which I forgot to turn my glue right side up last night, I'm going to put out a little bit of glue here on the end of this so it's ready. And then I've got just a regular hole punch, and I've got a toothpick. To do this, you're going to need a total of 2 toothpicks. And we're going to punch out 2 holes. This is our same Bisquick box that we've been using. It's just a small, it's one of the flaps. Now these hole punches are generally, oops, that one's split for some reason. There we go. That's better. Alright. We're going to dip our end of our toothpick into the glue, and you're going to line it up so that it goes, so the tip of the toothpick is lined up with the edge of the circle. Turn the toothpick around and do one on the other end of the toothpick, and then let it dry. I'm doing it this way because this is easier to keep track of than if I was to cut the toothpick and have to cut it to size and then trim it later. So we're going to let this glue dry, and when it's dry I'll be back and we'll go to the next step. Alright, now that our glue has had time to dry, we're going to carefully cut this off. Cut the toothpick, and I hold on to that so it doesn't go flying. And I like to use an emery board to just even that up. So let's get these all cut. There we go. Now we have something that looks like a control knob for a stove. So I've got some masking tape here. I'm going to lay this out. Lay it out. And this one was a little off center, but I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm putting this down on the masking tape so that I can paint it. And I just have some white craft paint. And it's not going to take much paint. Make sure that you get all the way around the edges though, so that you don't have any cardboard or the end of your wood showing on the edges. All right, so I will probably come back and do a second coat of paint off camera. When that's dry, I'll come back and we'll go to the next step. All right, so I put a second coat of paint on those and that's dry. And I also cut just a little piece of black, a tiny rectangle of black cardstock, the same black cardstock that we've been using. I just eyeballed it, but it looks like it's about 1/4 inch by about 3/8 of an inch. It's just a small, that's going to represent our clock. And I've got my satin Mod Podge here. We're going to coat all of this with a nice coat of satin Mod Podge, just to make it look a little less like it's put together from Bisquick box and toothpick. And to give this a little shine, because that, like I said, it's going to be our clock. So now you can get fancier if you want to. You could draw out a clock. You could do all kinds of things. You could make a nice control panel, but we're just going to put the clock in the middle, and Mrs. Doll will just have to figure out how her oven works. So I'm going to let this dry, and when this is dry, we can glue it to the stove. All right, so I've pulled these off of the tape and put them here on the tile, and I kind of went around with my nail, and I kind of just pulled off the little bits of finish, of paint and Mod Podge that were kind of sticking past the edges. So make sure that you know which is your pointed end of your toothpick, because that's going to go up. What I'm going to do, I've also marked the center. So I'm using the same glue that I used earlier. It's gotten nice and thick. And I'm just going to eyeball this. I probably should measure everything, but I'm not going to today. Trying to make sure I get this in camera and still have it where I can work. There we go. Now, that needs to be that way a little bit. Let's kind of trying to eyeball it, kind of use my fingers to, yeah, that's close enough. So let's go ahead and put these down, kind of see where we want them. I'm going to put 2 like that, and then the other 2 for on this side. Alright, so I know where that's going to go now, so I'm going to put a dab of glue right where I want it to go. Or if you've got a really fine tipped pen, you could make little marks around these. And you could do all kinds of things. You could take a green, kind of a greenish colored pen and write a time on your clock area if you wanted to. Some little buttons here on the sides might be kind of cute for the oven controls. So let's put this last one on. Then this needs to dry, and then we can put some handles on the oven door and the little drawer underneath. And then our stove is going to be done. Alright, I'm going to let this glue dry, and then I'll be back. Alright, so our next step is to create a door handle and a drawer handle for down here. And I've been thinking about this for basically a couple of weeks. What would be the best way to do a handle? And I've thought of several things. This is what I decided to go with. I'm going to use a skinny stick, and I've got these little beads that are almost white. We're going to paint them, so they'll be fine. And what I need to do is I need to mark this at 2 3/4 of an inch, just under 2 3/4. So I'm going to make it 1/8 of an inch narrower than 2 3/4. There, and that will be perfect, I think. We're going to need our that again here in a second. Hopefully I got a fairly straight skinny stick. Several of my skinny sticks I pulled out were warped. Alright, yeah, those are the same size. Let's try them on here. Yeah, I like that. Alright. So now I have, and I got a new bottle of one of those little trial packages of glues, and there was a Julep in it. Julep is designed to glue things like plastics and, well, jewels, and all kinds of things together. So I thought that would be a good choice. And you'll notice on your skinny stick, the front, what I'm going to call the front side, has slightly rounded edges. So I'm putting that edge down, and the back side is a little rougher and has a little bit more of a square edge. This glue does, see, that came out way too thick, so I'm going to use my finger. I don't want to glue these together, but I want to make sure to get all my glue where I want it. This should hold this just fine because it's designed to do things like plastics. See if I can have this not bubble. Okay, the opening on this thing does not go where I want it to. And no one's going to see the back of the handle anyway, so I'm okay with a blob of glue there. Whoops. This is why I brought extra beads. Just in case I decided to drop them. I'm going to line these up fairly close to the ends and centered. I get a wet wipe and wipe off my tray, and I'm going to let these dry for a while so that the glue dries, and then when that's dry I'll come back and we'll paint them. Alright, now the glue is dry, so I'm going to paint the whole thing. Paint the back and let that dry, and then I will paint the front. And after that's dry, I'm going to put a coat of the same Mod Podge on that I did the dials, and when this is dry I'll come back and I'll show you. It's, you know how to paint, right? We all know how to paint. So I'm going to paint this and then get the finish on, and I'll be back. Alright, these are now painted and they have a coat of Mod Podge on the front. So we're going to attach them, and I'm using the same Julep glue. I've put some out on my tile. So I'm going to put enough here that hopefully it will hold really well. Use whatever glue you've got that says it will hold plastic. I don't think I would use a hot glue, but this is designed for plastic, which is why I'm using it today. But there's lots of different glues out there. And put this one on. I'm putting a pretty good dollop of glue on the bottom of this. And since we're attaching it to paper cardstock, it should glue pretty well. And this does dry clear. Make sure I have it straight. Okay, I'm going to let this. I'm going to make sure off camera that those are straight, and I'm going to let them dry. Alright, our glue is dry on our handle, so now we've got, I almost forgot this step. I've got a piece of foam core that's cut 2 by 2 3/4. This is going to be our base. And I've cut a strip that's just a little narrower than 1/4 inch. Just barely narrower. And it doesn't need to go all the way around even. It doesn't even need to be cut there. So I am going to run a little bead of glue around here. Am I still on camera? Yes, I am. Grab this, put it around. A little bit more right there. I'll use a piece of foam core to kind of spread the glue around. I forgot to get another piece of parchment paper to protect my surface too, so I'm going to have to clean that up after a while. Right, get this on the bottom. Get the cat hair off of there. Yeah, it wouldn't be one of my projects without a piece of cat hair on it, right? All right, so there we go. Whoops. We're going to let this glue dry, and then I'll be back and we'll look at our finished stove. All right, so our glue is all dry and our stove is done. I am so excited about this project. I hope you are too. Be sure and check the blog post for more photos. If you haven't found the Facebook group, I'd love to have you join us over there. And if you're interested in helping support the channel, be sure and check out the Patreon page. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.